local organizations like Sparkpoint can help create systemic changes to increase the likelihood for all students that are attending community colleges. Special thanks to all of the Tocqueville and Women United members who are in attendance today. I'm actually the chair of the Tocqueville Society and a board member. Lived here in the Bay Area for about 3 years and have been associated with the United Way for nearly 17 years. Haven't lived all over the country. So, really excited to join you all today and to talk about Sparkpoint. This is a really exciting and really cool program that's continuing to grow in the Bay Area. And having been associated with the United Way for nearly 17 years, I've really learned and appreciated the role that community colleges play in our nationwide economy, locally for the state, but even more so in the Bay Area. And again, being an accountant by trade, numbers are my friend, and so if I can, just to kind of set the stage a little bit to kind of frame the conversation we're going to have today, I've got some statistics just centered around community colleges and really the significant impact that they do make. So, this is something I've learned recently is community colleges enroll nearly half of all college students. That's something that up until recently, I really didn't have an appreciation for. In California alone, 29% of all UC graduates and 51% of Cal State graduates started at a community college. So when you talk about a pipeline in order to have folks matriculate into a 4-year degree, community colleges, they're critical, really important. And then even more so too, if you just take a look on a return on investment standpoint, California taxpayers receive $4.50 for every $1 that's invested in our community college students. That's really impactful. In addition to that, students earning a degree or a certificate from a California community college earn nearly twice as much in the 3 years following earning that degree. So, you take a look at it from an economic sustainability standpoint, you take a look at it from an equity lens and providing an opportunity for those who might not have had the same built-in advantages that some of us may have had in our upbringing. And, community colleges are vital to, the Bay Area economy and just, again, to be able to create pathways for those folks to have better lives that really all of us strive for. Before diving into the heart of the webinar, I just wanted to give everybody just a quick roadmap of kind of what the next, 50 minutes or so is going to look like. We're first going to hear from our United Way Bay Area VP of Community Impact, Aina Yasahari Lee, to set the stage and kind of give a little bit of background. Then we're going to hear from Chad Thompson, who's the director of the Sparkpoint site at Skyline College, about the impact that he's personally seen on campus. We're then going to turn the mic over to Jess Hudson, who's a Sparkpoint ambassador, and we'll listen to her personal story. From there, we're going to hear from 2 local colleges, SF State and Gavilan, and they're going to explain their experiences with persistent rate challenges. And finally, at the end of the presentations, I join everybody here to participate. We're going to create some breakout rooms where we can all talk in smaller groups centered around, just kind of what you heard during the webinar and kind of how can we as a community continue to support community colleges, our Sparkpoint sites, 2 really vital engines of economic growth for everybody. So thanks again for attending. I'm going to pass it over to Aina here and from United Way Bay Area, and the microphone is yours.
Thanks, Eric. Hope everyone can hear me. I have to apologize. My screen just froze, so I can't share my screen for 1 second. Chana, can I actually ask you to share? Thank you so much. While we're waiting, I Thanks, Eric. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Vice President Community Impact. I have been with United Way for about 10 years and have worked with a lot of the Sparkpoint centers in the Bay Area. And I'm really excited to talk to you about the Sparkpoint Difference Report today. Oh, sorry, Katrina, did you want to do the poll first?
Sure, yeah, I'll share screens in just a second. I'll go ahead and launch a couple polls here just to get a pulse of the audience. We've got 3 questions, so I'll go ahead and launch the very first one. Great, we are about 90% in, so I'll go ahead and end the poll and share the results. Looks like we have a winner, which is correct. So community college sites serve the most first-generation students. And then our second poll is, what percentage of Sparkpoint centers are located at community colleges? Got some interesting results so far. We're about 90% in, so I'll go ahead and end the polling and share the results. So with 44% of the vote, we are correct that about half of our Sparkpoint sites are located at community colleges. All right, and then our very final question before we dive into the presentation. What percentage of clients maintained or improved their financial status last year? All right, we're all in. I will share the results. So we were pretty split between either 75 or 85%. Super excited to share that it is 85% of all clients who maintained or improved their financial status last year, which is really impressive in such a tumultuous year. So I see a couple claps and excited emojis there. So with that, I'll go ahead and start the screen share. Give me just a minute.
Thanks, Chana. So you can go to the next slide. So before we start, I know many of you are familiar with United Way Bay Area, but if you are not, we are committed to breaking the cycle of poverty in the Bay Area by building financial capability among residents. We are fighting to remove barriers to success and improve the lives of thousands of residents in our community. And Sparkpoint centers throughout the region are really essential to achieving this goal. So what is Sparkpoint? So Sparkpoint centers provide one-stop support to students, individuals, and families, including services such as financial coaching, credit counseling, rental assistance, debt management, job coaching, food pantries, and legal workshops, to name a few. And financial coaches work one-on-one with clients. They craft personalized plans that allow them to set and achieve their own goals. Almost 12 years ago, the Sparkpoint Center has opened in Oakland. And as you can see here, there's a map of all of the locations where Sparkpoint centers exist in the Bay Area. And there's actually a blue dot where Sparkpoint Chabot, our newest center, just launched a few months ago. And Sparkpoint centers are housed in community centers, in schools, community colleges. And in the past 5 years, the model has grown really exponentially rapidly in the community college space, which we'll be speaking about today. So we've really seen incredible results in the past 11 years since the Sparkline Center first opened in Oakland in 2009. We've served 29,152 individuals, and these numbers were actually pulled a few months ago. So we've actually served a few hundred more people since then. And 14,071 of them received financial coaching long-term. 62% achieved their own financial goals. And on average, Sparkpoint clients increased their annual income by around $10,000, increased their savings by $6,220, improved their credit by 107 points, and they reduced their debt by $9,365. It's really incredible results that we're seeing across all of the Sparkpoint centers. So Sparkpoint is focused on long-term financial health and well-being of individuals and families, but we're really especially excited about the impact that we've learned Sparkpoint can have for community college students. So a quick note about why Sparkpoint has expanded in community colleges, as you probably saw from one of the poll questions. With more than 2.1 million students at 116 colleges, the California community college system is the largest system of higher education in the country. Community colleges are the largest institutions serving first-generation students, more than Cal State universities and UCs. California Community Colleges is the largest provider of workforce training in the nation, and students earning a degree or certificate from a California community college nearly double their earnings within 3 years. And attending or graduating from a California community college nearly doubles your chance of finding a job compared to those who failed to complete high school. We also know that community colleges also face challenges with low persistence and completion rates. Now, only 40% of community college students graduate. More than 25% of first-time students who enroll in the fall semester don't return the following spring semester. We also know that almost 1/5 of traditional aged community college students never complete 10 credits, and that number is probably higher for older students. And the lowest rates are among low-income students, students of color, and first-generation students. And this webinar is titled, "Why Are Students Dropping Out?" And obviously one of the factors for not only students not attending class or dropping out and low enrollment obviously has to do with the COVID environment we're in and the nature of remote learning. And community colleges are really facing particular challenges right now around that, and you'll hear more about this from the other presenters. So Sparkpoint has expanded to community colleges because of the impact we've seen that it could have on students, particularly in community colleges. And in 2015, we learned that Skyline college students who access Sparkpoint services were more likely to stay in school. Their fall to spring semester persistence rates for Sparkpoint students were 79% compared to 64% college-wide. And persistence rates are actually even higher for Sparkpoint students who access multiple services. And we learned that Sparkpoint seemed to be effective for students because it addressed non-academic worries so that they were able to focus on their studies and stay in school. We know that post-secondary institutions struggle to retain its most vulnerable students, and colleges often struggle with low enrollment, student persistence, and completion rates among low-income students, students of color, and first-generation students. We also know these challenges have been exacerbated because of COVID-19. And Sparkline is really tackling this challenge head-on by directly alleviating students' non-academic challenges. So our goal with this report was to see if the persistence rates that you see here were higher amongst, if they were higher among Sparkpoint clients at 5 of our other centers that are located at community colleges. And we're happy to report, and I think Chanda or someone will drop the link into the chat. At every community college where we were able to obtain data, persistence rates among Sparkpoint students were higher than the non-Sparkpoint students. So through comprehensive financial, career, basic needs supports, we really believe that Sparkpoint is successfully contributing to improved student persistence. So in this chart you can see here, we see that compared to college persistence rates of, for example, 62% at Contra Costa College or 57% at Laney College, the persistence rates among Sparkpoint clients, students who access Sparkpoint services were higher, 80% and 95%. So in every community college where we have a Sparkpoint center, we were able to obtain the data. We saw that persistence rates among Sparkpoint clients were higher than the overall college persistence rates. And it is important to mention that the information and data gathered was prior to COVID-19. So this was data gathered from 2018. So this is really the same data that was on the previous slide, but it's a colored graph, so you could see it visually. The blue bars represent the overall college persistence rates, and then the orange bar represents the Sparkpoint persistence rates. And we're defining persistence as staying in school one semester and then staying on into the next semester. And these were fall to spring semester persistence. So in the Sparkpoint difference report, and thank you, Nicole, for putting in the link, we actually attribute greater persistence rates among Sparkpoint clients to what we call the Sparkpoint difference, which is a term coined by my colleague, Norman Chang. We're saying this is the reason why Sparkpoint is powerful in helping students stay in school is that first, these services that Sparkpoint provides connect students to valuable, timely resources. So on campus, students are connected to student support programs, including the Career Center or financial aid, food pantry, transfer centers. They have partnerships with credit unions, housing agencies, legal resources, and they also address critical challenges. And these resources are offered when students need them so that immediate barriers are addressed and students can concentrate on their classes and stay in school. The Sparkpoint coaches provide an average of 12 direct service interactions to each client, including access to food pantry, financial coaching, budgeting, and debt counseling. And second, we say that these services are not just offered on a one-off basis. They're integrated and offered in combination with each other to address multiple barriers. So various on and on-campus programs work together so that students don't have to repeat their information or fill out multiple intake forms. And staff and partners are constantly in conversation with each other and communicating with each other. And there's one coach that navigates the client's time at Sparkpoint. Lastly, many Sparkpoint clients have attributed their progress to their financial coach, who takes a holistic, student-centered approach in working with them. So the coaches guide the students in setting their own goals. They provide the support, tools, and motivation to maintain their participation and attendance in school. In some schools, like Kenyatta College, have incentives that motivate students to reach their personal education and career goals. Some colleges like Skyline have integrated Sparkpoint with scholarship programs, and these scholarship recipients are paired with a financial coach and providing students with the supports necessary to track and achieve their goals. So these are some quotes from our Sparkpoint clients. They're all quotes from students, and I wanted to actually ask for some participation from some audience members to help me read these quotes. So I can't see who's in the audience, but I think Kelly is participating. So Kelly, can you read 2 of these quotes?
Sure. Hi, everyone. They want to go to college. They want to see mommy go to college. Our whole family is about trying to succeed. We have a better outlook on life, said one Sparkpoint participant. Another said, Sparkpoint is there to put food in your fridge, to help save for your future, to make sure your needs are met so you can successfully focus on your education. And with a support system like that, you can achieve your dreams.
Thanks, Kelly. I'm also going to call on Adolfo. Could you actually read the last 3 quotes?
Sure, thanks, Anna. Sparkpoint is enlightening, empowering, and motivating. When I leave those classes, I'm like, yes, I can do this. I think we need more things like this in all schools. The part that always struck me about this place was not that it was this conglomeration of a lot of different government entities and help and all of it, but it was also that it wasn't people helping you. It was people helping you help yourself.
Thank you. So in order to scale Sparkpoint across more post-secondary institutions, Chani, you can go to the next slide. We are creating a Sparkpoint toolkit that will serve as a blueprint for Sparkpoint program implementation, and we're piloting the toolkit with interested post-secondary institutions, and you'll hear from a few of them today. Second, we've always tried to be client focused and really harness client voices. So we engage a group of Sparkpoint ambassadors made up of client leaders who share their stories. They give us input and guidance on our work and advocate for policies with us on Capitol Day and speak at our events. And you'll hear from one of them today. And lastly, we know that almost half of returning Sparkpoint students on community college campuses are parents. So to that end, we're taking a family-centered approach to our work, and we've shifted from financial coaching to a family-centered coaching model that's trauma-informed. It's an equity-centered approach that's rooted in an understanding of the persistent effects of systemic racism and poverty. And our vision is to build on the Sparkpoint centers to become truly two-generational, allowing parents to not only create better opportunities for themselves, but to also pass on the support and success to future generations. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chad to talk a little bit more about what it looks like at a community college.
Great, thank you, Anna. I'm gonna set up my PowerPoint real quick. So thanks, Anna, for all that information and introduction. I'm really thankful to be here and be able to share all of this information with you. My name is Chad Thompson, and I'm the director for Sparkpoint at Skyline College. And I'm gonna tell you a little bit about myself and about Skyline so you get a sense of where we're coming from. And then I'm gonna get into kind of what Sparkpoint at Skyline has been doing historically and what we are doing now with COVID, and just a tiny bit about what we're hoping to move towards as we hopefully get through this pandemic and move on to a post-COVID world. But I've been working at Sparkpoint at Skyline since 2015, and since I've been here, just a variety of changes and shifts in leadership and at the college in kind of the types of services, the things that we're able to do as we find additional funding and find the additional needs or the specific needs of our students and try to address the different gaps that we see. So it has been a little bit fluid with that, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But that really has been key to us being able to adapt and really be supportive of what the needs are of our students even now. And again, that's something that I'll definitely get into. So I got just a little bit of information about Skyline to give you a sense of the type of college that we are. Skyline is located in San Bruno, so just south of San Francisco, in San Mateo County. As you can see on the left slide, most graphic there, serving 32% Hispanic Latinx, 18% white, 17% Asian, not including Filipino, 16% Filipino. We have a large Filipino population, and so we separate that out in our whole district. 7.5 multiracial, and then you can see a smaller percentage unreported Black, African American, and Pacific Islander. So you can see that it's fairly diverse in terms of different populations. And like I mentioned before, the Filipino population is really large, and we really make sure that we're supporting that group specifically, as well as all of our different students and our different ethnicities there. And then on the rightmost slide, you can see our age breakdown. 48.5% are between 18 and 22, with another 21% between 23 and 28. So you can see 2/3, right, of our population under the age of 28. And then finally, our full-time, part-time breakdown. We have 46% less than half-time, with 31% half-time and 21% full-time. And our enrollment number right here, 8,779, that is down from what has been typically around 9,000 or 10,000 students enrolled down this year, as I'm sure we'll get into with some of our colleagues. But 1,191 first-time students, and 298 international students. And again, those are important and key things to think about as well as I talk about what we've been doing. I just came from a meeting actually where there was a big talk and a focus on how we can support our Burmese students, our students from Myanmar while they're here. And a big part of it was, what can Sparkpoint do to support students who are international and have different parameters as far as what they're eligible for compared to our other resident students. And then a little bit about residency. So there's a picture of our beautiful campus. And we have students coming from Daly City, Colma, South San Francisco, and the rest of San Mateo County, San Bruno as well, but also coming from as far as San Francisco, San Mateo Pacifica. And I don't have it on here, but a smaller amount coming from other counties. So why did Sparkpoint start at Skyline? And really, it has to do with the cascade effect for college students. You know, a student has to cut their work hours so they can study more. They're always late and always tired. Their income is lowered because of that. Or maybe a student owing fees for previous units and maxes out their credit cards and becomes short on their rent. Or maybe another student can't afford groceries, hungry and can't focus, grades start to decline. We've all heard about students like this, and maybe it's one student that all of these things are affecting. And what we can see is a student might lose their job, might get evicted, and might drop out. Any of these things can lead to this. And so for Sparkpoint at Skyline, we have the mission of providing financial capability, resource, and support program designed to support students and community members as they attempt to reach their financial, educational, and life goals. So really broad, obviously. And I like to tell students when we talk about what we do, that we do a little bit of everything. We're really here to support anything that we do anything we can do to support you as you try to reach any goal that you're going for. But really, it started with snacks. It started with this idea of faculty at the college seeing a student that was falling asleep in class and having a talk with them and finding out that they haven't been able to eat, that they've been giving their food to their child, haven't been able to buy more food. And the idea of even a granola bar, even a little bit of something given to a student really had a dramatic effect on their ability to succeed in their classroom, but that more was needed. And so that's where discussions came into about food pantries, connecting with United Way around wraparound services and additional services, because as we saw from the cascade effect, all these things are connected and one thing can always is leading to another. And that was almost 10 years ago, or about 10 years ago. Now, we have a variety of services that we offer. I'm going to talk a little bit more about financial coaching on the next slide, but we also provide support with public benefits, grocery distributions, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a minute, providing free tax services during tax season. We have a scholarship program that combines actual scholarship funding with financial coaching and career counseling as a kind of a wraparound support model. Our Dream Center at the campus is housed under our Sparkpoint umbrella. We have a free immigration legal clinic, and we provide a variety of housing resources, and that has actually even come even more to the forefront this year with COVID. And I'll talk a little bit about more about that at the end. So this was already talked about a little bit already, but the main goals that we have are to increase student income, improve credit, reduce debt, build assets, but also increase student persistence, right? We want to try to address those financial barriers that are leading to students dropping out. And one of the main services that's really the hub and making sure that we are supporting our students is financial coaching. Financial coaching was already talked about a little bit, and we follow the same guidelines, same model as the rest of the Sparkpoint centers. But I just know that for us, the financial coaching is really the best way to help a student set goals, namely financial goals, but it can really be any goals. Emphasize financial planning, budgeting, bank accounts, and credit. And those are typically the ones that are getting requested the most. And I mentioned that Kenyatta has an incentive program, and we replicated that program, our sister college, and we call it Sparkpoint Cash at our site, where we're actually providing a small financial incentive for achieving those goals, to try to set that habit that these goals are achievable and move people forward towards their ultimate bigger goals. And then finally, and I mentioned this already, but this is very key, that connecting a student to another Sparkpoint program or other resources in the campus, outside the campus, this is a key point for financial coaching, because once the financial coach establishes that relationship with a client and gets to know them, they can really make sure they're connecting them to the things that are going to be the most supportive and that they're eligible for. And so that's why the students that work with financial coaches, they are the most successful. It's not just because they're getting that financial coaching and they made a budget. It's because they are also being connected to every other service or resource that the financial coach can help them connect to. And all of those things together are what lead to that success. And so we definitely believe that in our work at Skyline. And I know it's similar across the other Sparkpoint centers as well. And then another big service that I wanted to talk about a little bit is just grocery distribution. And that is one where we've had to be flexible, right? This is a key support service for many of our students and many of their families in our local community. we've had a food pantry since the beginning, but that was not meeting the need even years ago. And so we expanded the food pantry, even more distributions. But now with COVID, we had to adapt again and create a drive-through grocery distribution to maintain health and safety guidelines. And so that is something that has required a shift, increasing our volunteer support, partnering with various areas around the campus. And now at our Skyline site, we're serving 900 families every single week in a 2-hour period, doing the drive-through grocery distribution. And we have a sister program at CSM that does the same exact thing on Friday, and really supporting our students and their families in our local community. And so I kind of that's an overview of what we've been doing in general, but some of the adjustments that we've had to make sure that we're maintaining, it's the same as many of you or anyone, is virtual services. But that virtual services for the financial coaching, that is the key. And that has actually been very successful for us. Students that have appointments are showing up more regularly, or if they're late, they're able to join a late meeting, right? They don't have to make their way to campus. So we're actually seeing a lot of success with virtual services, and we're thinking that that's something that we're going to continue to lean on in the future, even in a post-COVID campus. And then just increased integration and collaboration has been a major adjustment, both with our programs on campus. The grocery distribution is a huge undertaking, but we work closely with our public safety facilities teams with programs and services around campus to recruit volunteers and get the word out. But also with our sister Sparkpoint centers, we work much more closely now, working district-wide on things like hotel voucher programs, on our rental assistance program that we do with United Way's funding and support, on just planning around how we're addressing the student needs during this pandemic. A lot more integration and partnership with the rest of our Sparkpoint centers. And then even just district-wide, the district has a huge focus. Our district and many college districts have a huge focus on basic needs support right now because it's so crucial. And Sparkpoint, as the financial capabilities center, is also taking on even more of that basic needs role. And so our Sparkpoint Center at Skyline, and I know at some of our sister colleges, taking on that role and really going into the forefront as crucial to supporting our community right now. And I think that leads into our road to recovery for our district, for our college, and for our program, that we're going to start to get into the planning phases of how do we return to campus, right? But we're also looking at, well, what do our students need now? Whereas before they maybe needed more basic needs, if they're going back to work now, they maybe need some different things. And we're going to be continuing to focus on that. And one thing that I know we've been talking a lot about is making sure that as we get through this emergency, that we're planning for future potential emergencies and making sure that our students have emergency savings so they can address the next financial barrier, right? So these are the type of adjustments and pivots that we do in terms of our focus. In terms of plans post-COVID, I left that one kind of open-ended because it's hard to even say what's going to happen. But what I can say is that we adapt to the needs of our students. And I think that this pandemic has shown the importance of our type of program at a college like Skyline or at a community college, that we were so crucial now and have been crucial. And I think we're going to continue to be important and crucial in the eyes of our colleagues and of our community as we move forward. So with that, I want to thank you again all for letting me speak today and talk a little bit about what we've been doing at Skyline. And I wanted to ask you to help me welcome our Sparkpoint Ambassador, who's going to talk a little bit, Jess Hudson.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Took me a second, sorry. Hi, everybody. I'm Jess. Thank you, Chad. I actually, Skyline is my homeschool, and he's very right about the snacks. I really miss getting pretzels in the office. I started at Skyline in 2016. I was 31. I had 2 young children. I'd been staying home with them for 6 years, and I just filed for divorce from my abusive husband. So going back to school is a huge leap, and I did not have an adequate safety net. And as you can probably imagine, being a student and a parent is extremely difficult. It's a difficult balance, and doing it while you're poor is a bit of a miracle. So when I started, I was like arranging my class schedule around my kids' pickup and drop offs and studying at soccer practice. So I'd be able to help my kids with their homework later in the evening. And then just struggling with the stress and the uncertainty of poverty. And I knew that if I could graduate, I could get us out of poverty, but I needed a lot of help to get there. So I discovered Sparkpoint through their on-campus food pantry. And I had been going to a food pantry that was 2 cities away, and I was really struggling with, do I leave class early to get food, or do I stay in class and maybe not make it on time to get food for my family for the week? So being able to get food on campus on my lunch break or after school was a really big game changer for me. I didn't have to choose between being focused as a student or feeding my family every week. And then I was also offered other services at the same time, like you've heard. I used the Vita sites, and actually still do, for my taxes, which was a really big help when I was a newly single parent and didn't know what this was going to look like as far as my taxes went. And then every time I was in the office, it was just a new opportunity to ask for help on a range of issues. And being able to do that on my lunch break between classes made it so much more possible for me to get help when I needed it. And I especially remember Kevin in the office. I went to him and said, hey, if I have to wait in line to get my groceries, I'm going to be late to pick up my son to school. So he just started packing my groceries in advance so I could swing by and not wait and always be on time to pick up my kids from school. And so it wasn't just about getting food, but I really felt like they cared about me as a person, and they wanted me to succeed, not just in finishing the semester, but in my day-to-day responsibilities. And that helped me to just push through the really difficult many semesters I did at Skyline. Also, while I was there, I met my amazing partner, Niall. We fell in love in a foreign relations class at Skyline. He's a Marine veteran, and he's currently in the National Guard. And when we met, he was also really food insecure, but he was kind of too proud to go ask for help. So I kind of asked, hey, you want to go on a date to the food pantry? And it worked. Now we live together, and he volunteers to go to the drive-through Sparkpoint every week. He really enjoys it. He brings a book while he waits in line in the car. And then he's proud to bring home healthy food to our family when, we're both, now there's 2 student parents in our household and money is really tight. And then even my son, who hates fruits and vegetables, will eat whatever comes in those boxes, because to him it's like a present to open, and whatever gets him to eat apples that works for me. So the support and the stability of Sparkpoint, it gave me the confidence to keep going, to make it through school. It was really rough. And now I have a 3.7 GPA, and I'm getting my bachelor's degree this year in political science from SFSU. And I also have an internship that allows me to work with people who are facing the housing crisis and domestic violence. And being able to do that and give back to my community in ways that I needed help has been so rewarding for me. And I don't know that I would have felt like I could take on that kind of responsibility, especially for no pay, if I didn't have the support that Sparkpoint has given me and still does. And then because I want to work in public policy, I of course have recommendations that I'm excited to talk about. I work in a remote housing clinic with Bay Area Legal Aid right now. And so we're dealing with a lot of people who are struggling with, staying in their homes, facing eviction. And to be a student facing that kind of insecurity, I can't imagine if I were in that position that I would be able to continue going to school or even to focus to study under those kinds of circumstances. So because Sparkpoint is already really well positioned to reach these people who are having these hardships, especially during the pandemic, because they're already serving these people and students and the community through food banks and things like that. And with the Vita sites, I think that they're really just well positioned to expand in the area of eviction prevention. And they already are. They have a rental assistance program that provides grants for tenants who owe back rent and utilities. And I'm super excited to see what kind of impact they can make if the funding is available. But also, I am working on helping people with their applications for Housing is Key, which is the state's new rental relief fund. But But the program is solely online at this point, and requires an email address for ongoing communications. And so far, working in clinic, I've seen a lot of barriers to access. If you're homeless, obviously, if you don't have, reliable internet access, you may not be able to access the rental relief that would get you out of homelessness. But I've also seen a lot of barriers for people who, would have used libraries or their school campuses or reliable Starbucks Wi-Fi to do those things. And now those aren't really available either. So what I would love to see is that the VitaSite program that we already have that's already serving the community, if that could be opened up to help people with the housing is key applications to access both reliable internet and also to have staff on hand. As a remote worker, like I would be over the moon if I could help people in person with those issues. It's especially difficult for people who don't have like 1099 or W-2 income sources. And that's something that I think would be really beneficial to people who could get the rental relief and then, move on with their lives and take advantage of other Sparkpoint programs and, make it like I have. So that's something that I feel like Sparkpoint can do well already with the resources that they have and like the infrastructure that they've already put into place. And I think that it's a good continuation of the work that they're doing already on rental relief. So I really hope to see that in the future. And I would be happy to assist people there. So yeah, it's been a really difficult road to get to graduation, but I'm here. And my kids have seen us persevere, both my partner and myself. He's a student as well. And seeing that you can reach out and ask for help, get the help, and then get to a position where, the end is in sight for us, where we're not going to need to go to food banks every week. And that's something that I think when I started in 2016, I couldn't have pictured that, I would be in a position where I can help other people, that I am, soon going to be employable and getting to work in the field that matters a lot to me. And I really hope it conveys to you like how important Sparkpoint is to my entire family. And how much I think that, especially in the pandemic, Sparkpoint can do for people like me who, would get through college if they had the safety net and maybe aren't willing to commit to college without that safety net. So thank you guys so much for listening to me, and thank you for United Way Bay Area for giving me a platform to speak about this. And I'm excited to talk to you all in the breakout rooms later. Thank you. Chana, I think you're next.
Great. Thank you so much, Jess. You see the chat blowing up and all of these supportive emojis going on here that everyone's reacting to.
Oh, you guys are delightful. Thank you.
Well, I just also want to verbalize what everyone's saying is that you are such an inspiration, and we are honored and humbled to be part of your journey of feeling supported. And we just want to pass along our inspiration to you and support to you. So thanks, Jess. Thank you, Chad and Anna, for sharing a little bit about Sparkpoint. Super great overview of what the program is. And it's my pleasure to introduce Karina from San Francisco State University and Julie from Gavilan College in Gilroy, or maybe the opposite I'm seeing. And these are two local colleges. They actually do not have a Sparkpoint Center on site right now. So we're going to hear a little bit of contrast between some colleges and what their experience is currently, and hear a little bit about potentially what Sparkpoint could do at their campuses. So ladies, I'll pass it to you.
Thank you, Chana. My name is Karina Cisneros. I'm representing Gavilan College. I'm currently serving as the Interim Dean of Student Success and Equity Programs, overseeing the special programs. Many of those include equity programs that you might be familiar with, like our EOPS Care, CalWorks, Students with Disabilities, our Veterans Services, and our Student Health Services. Just to get you acquainted a little bit with Gavilan College, Gavilan is located in Gilroy, just south of San Jose. We are what you would call a medium, I guess on the low end of a medium-sized college, serving about 9,400 students annually. Our students are 60%, over 60% Latinx and about 27% white. We do serve a large geographic area, including 2 counties, Santa Clara County, as well as San Benito County, with a varying diverse of diversity. Specifically with socioeconomic status. We serve some of the wealthiest and poorest zip codes in the county, and that presents very unique challenges for us as a college and being able to provide equitable services to students. You can consider us a suburban college with some rural challenges. Many of our students, although you could say we're a suburban college, might struggle with transportation to the campus. We're on the other side of the highway. If you're familiar with the Gilroy outlets, most people would be familiar with the Gilroy outlets and not with Gavilan College, as an example, because we're a bit disconnected by that highway that runs across. We are also a bit of a low-tech college with limited infrastructure. We are 100 years old, now turning 101 years old, and we suffer from the lack of infrastructure or aging facilities and aging infrastructure at our campus. Approximately 1/3 of our students come from San Benito County and often do not have many of the social services that are offered to our other students coming from Santa Clara County. Although many of our Santa Clara County students also might feel that they don't have access to many of the services that others in the upper end of the Bay Area of Santa Clara County might have access to, because many of the services the wider range of services begin in San Jose and north. And so we're on the very low end of Santa Clara County and often don't benefit from many of the services that the county has available for residents. Currently, our institution has made great efforts in adding services to meet basic needs of students, much like many other colleges. Those efforts began about 5 to 6 years ago with the addition of our food pantry, similar to Skyline's story. Recognizing that food was central to students being able to be in school, and it could be something that we can bring to the college in partnership with the Second Harvest Food Bank. We initiated the food pantry in 2015 and have been adding services since. The next service that was added at Gavilan was mental health services. Although it was very limited, it was added in 2016-17 and has been growing since. And the latest addition to meet basic needs was a grant that we received. It's a 3-year grant from the California Community College Foundation to meet the housing needs of students who are homeless or housing insecure. That housing grant is incredibly awesome to have as a resource for our students and really meets a lot of the gaps in services that we were experiencing. However, it's a 3-year grant that we know will come to an end in 2023. With regards to career, we are currently lacking in the career support and helping our students identify pathways that will lead to careers for improving self-sufficiency. However, we recently received a Title V grant that was initiated to support the development of an El Centro type of model similar to Sparkpoint. But we know that Sparkpoint has its own model and we can't just take the name, right? But it was very much inspired by Sparkpoint. And so we are hoping to develop an El Centro that will integrate many of the services that are currently delivered very fragmented and piecemeal to students. Like I said, we've done a great job in adding these services, but they're currently delivered in a very fragmented way. And we know that when students take advantage of multiple services that are intended to meet several needs, their chance for success definitely skyrockets and increases significantly rather than only meeting a part of their need. what has changed for us since COVID-19 in terms of students who might be dropping out or stopping out, I can share with you that we're seeing very stark differences in how the pandemic is affecting our students, with our parenting students and our students with disabilities being affected at a much higher level. With the closing of our schools and many daycares, our parenting students have suffered greatly. Some of our programs that serve parenting students, like CalWorks and CARE, have seen a 50% drop in their participation in those programs. And these are our most vulnerable students who are recipients of government cash assistance. And so their absence in education is absolutely concerning to us. What we're hoping and what led us to connect with United Way and interested in Sparkpoint is the idea that we can truly serve the whole student and bringing all of these services together. And our college currently does not have the ability to bring all of those services together. And so we know that we are not fully meeting the needs of our students without integrating those services into the student experience and really meeting the holistic needs of our students. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time to share this with you.
All right, everybody. My name is Julie. I'm the Assistant Director for Basic Needs Initiatives at San Francisco State University. I'll keep it brief because ditto. A lot of my colleagues on the call have done a really good job of outlining the importance of basic needs work among colleges. And we talked a lot about it, community colleges, and I think that CSUs are an extension of that. A lot of our students are directly coming to us from the community college pipeline. So I think it's really important for us to be able to receive our community college students in the same way that a lot of our Sparkpoint Center community colleges have. So I would say in regards to basic needs services at San Francisco State, I put our website in the chat box if folks want to explore that. But we essentially have a food access program that includes a food pantry, CalFresh assistance, emergency food dollars, emergency meals. We have a housing program that does bridge housing, crisis housing, rapid rehousing, and we've just started to focus on economic sustainability. So that's kind of our third bucket. So as we've kind of inherited all of the challenges of COVID-19 and what folks are dealing with just on a societal level, that's definitely impacted us as well at SF State and with our students. So we've seen a significant decline in enrollment. We typically have about 30,000 students. We serve mainly first-generation students, students who might be coming from under-resourced backgrounds, students of color. And so when we started to see our enrollment decline in post-COVID, I'm talking about like thousands and thousands of students. And so some of the things that have been highlighted to maybe be a cause or impact of COVID to that is, like my colleagues have said, our parenting students are really experiencing intersectional challenges when it comes to college and COVID and just life and basic needs. Our students who are undocumented are very vulnerable in so many ways, vulnerable to eviction, and really can't benefit from a lot of these systems that are put in place that are offering relief for a lot of other students, like our HERF funding, our CARES Act funding, and things like that. And we've seen geographical challenges. So students who are unhoused or living in their vehicles, we've either lost track of them because they haven't been able to access technology in the same way of students who do have that access, and students who are relying on the library, the infrastructure that had the place where they charge their laptops, their cell phone, it had their Wi-Fi, it was warm, it's where they could access food, closed down, and they really didn't have access to that. So those are a lot of experiences that we have been seeing. And then bringing that back to our interest in the Sparkpoint model is we are really looking kind of forward towards like, how can we work with Sparkpoint and this wonderful model to integrate the exceptional framework of kind of like uniform services, like a single access point. Because even right now, I'll admit our services are pretty siloed. Like you could go to the food pantry, you could do crisis housing, you could get CalFresh assistance, but we have yet to be able to kind of funnel this into a pipeline that holistically serves the student. So that's our biggest interest, as well as just the sustainability. I really see a lot of the services like financial coaching, one-on-one work with students. It's not only helping them get through their education, but it's setting them up for success after they leave the infrastructure of our institution. So long-term success, it gets them their degree, and then beyond that, it keeps them in that position where they can keep advancing. So I'll pause there because of time, but thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks so much, you guys. That was really, really good insight as other community college students, as we're all navigating what lies ahead. It was great to hear both of your perspectives. Now, in the interest of time, we're going to change it up a little bit because we have just a couple minutes and we want to be respectful of your evenings. So I'm just going to say a couple words and then invite anyone who wants to stick around after 6 o'clock to go through a couple questions alongside us that I'll put in the chat. So if you can stick around, feel free to. We'll sort of, brainstorm and chat through a couple questions that I just posted in the chat box. But a couple closing words. Again, thank you every one of our speakers. Such great inspiration, especially from Jess, to hear your courage and your lived experience as a Sparkpoint client. Thank you so much. And to all of our other guest speakers, the great information and intel that you shared was really moving. So thank you all to our attendees as well. This event again is hosted by our TOEFL Society and our Women United group. So with that, I'm going to just say that you'll all receive a follow-up email from me tomorrow, and there'll be a couple links included, one of which will be a link to a short survey. Would be super, super helpful. It's just a couple minutes, a few questions. If you could fill that out to give us some feedback and insight on how you liked today's session. And then if you did want to get more involved in United Way, we're also going to be putting 2 links to get involved by donating. So we are currently running a backpack drive, and this session is all about community college students. And so we're going to be running a backpack drive. If you click on the link, you'll see 3 sweet little kiddos. But the reality is, even college students need backpacks and need those supplies. That's actually one of the biggest needs that we're seeing right now. So we'll be putting that information in the follow-up email. So be on the lookout for that tomorrow. And with that, we're about at 6 o'clock. So I will invite everyone who is able to stick around to brainstorm a couple of these questions. And for everybody else who need to drop off, thanks again for joining us. So I will repost those in the chat and then open up the floor for discussion. And feel free to take yourself off mute and just chime on in.
Chana, are we doing breakout sessions or just on here?
Thanks, Summer. That's a good question. Yeah, I would say just in this group, so that when people need to drop off, they don't feel like they're leaving their group, and that way we can all just hear everyone's insights.
Sure. I'll go. Jess, I was very, very impressed. You are so eloquent and confident, and it really shows. And I feel like I would have never guessed that you were down on your luck one time, because you are shining, and it was really inspirational to hear your story. And congrats to you and partner and your family. That was really, really incredible.
Thank you so much. I'm always so happy to talk about it, because I mean, yeah, I'm only shining now because someone was willing to spend a little time on me. Thank you.
I'll say something about like what the best thing about Sparkpoint is, at least from my perspective, because I know initially I was thinking, well, it's that all the resources are in one place. But I think, yes, obviously, but I think it's also that sense of like comfort and security, knowing that, yes, you have to have that conversation once, not 15 times, that you go to that one place and then, you know, you have someone who's willing to work with you, not tell you what to do, but, you know, help you figure out what it is that you need and get to that point.
I think that's a good point. When you only work with like one person, it's a lot more intimate, and then you feel more comfortable asking for more help and asking more questions because you are developing a relationship with the person that you're working with. And I think that made a big difference for me, for sure.
This is MJ. I have a question. It's probably more directed towards the Sparkpoint people, but I'm so impressed with the results that Sparkpoint does. I'm just wondering to know, what are the barriers, or what does it really take to open Sparkpoint at more locations, particularly in the Bay Area?
Nicole, do you want to start? I'll start and you can add. I think one of the barriers is really we provide a variety of supports to Sparkline centers in addition to funding. And that support is really heavy in the beginning, right? In supporting the planning of the Sparkpoint Center. So right now we're, as I mentioned, we're in the process of building a Sparkpoint toolkit, and the section on how to plan a Sparkpoint Center is, we're already at like 90 pages of how do you know, who are you serving? What's the vision? Who's the target population? And which programs on campus do you partner with? And what are the services and how are they integrated? And just going through so many of the elements, and what's your budget and sustainability, and how do you tap into institutional funding has just been, it's a lot to think through. So the capacity of us to support that, the capacity for the institutions to find the time and the resources to go through the process, I think is really a barrier for more people to do this. Nicole, what would you add?
I mean, I think in addition to that, I would add a lot of times we'll have a champion on the campus, but creating buy-in for institutions to be able to implement this type of model that would be supportive for the entire student population is sometimes a uphill battle for folks. So just, I think for us, that's one of the roles that United Way plays also, is it's like relationship building with leadership and trying to get people on board and to create some of that buy-in.
How much of the funding, what are the sources of funding that are necessary to start a Sparkpoint Center?
I think there's a variety of funding sources, and I'm spilling apple juice on myself. Adolfo, I might ask you to help me a little bit here, but I think there's a combination of institutional funding and foundational.
I'll take over. Don't worry, Anna. Get your hands full. The funding sources are, the primary one is oftentimes institutional. And so I know that Anna and Nicole were talking about having the buy-in. The buy-in really involves having sustainable support. So for example, at Kenyatta College, when we opened our center, it was built into the funding mechanism that the director and the lead coordinator's positions were already built into what's called Fund 1, or the college budget. So you take care of that. But aside from that, we tap into equity funding, we tap into partnership funding such as United Way. We have a chancellor's office that provides funding for basic needs supports. So there's quite an array of different funding schemes. The challenge is oftentimes aligning it so it matches up with the actual mission vision, so that they're running in parallel, so they're not competing. And the second challenge is finding a way to make it sustainable so you can do year to year, year over year planning.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Chad. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
I wanted to second that and what Anna mentioned, what was mentioned earlier, that the funding is typically starts out piecemeal and then continues to having to find how to maintain that funding. But a big challenge, like was mentioned, is going from having
just a general sense of a champion or a general sense of buy-in to really getting a higher level of buy-in that'll lead to that institutional funding. And that's a big jump. And one of the things that always comes up to me in some of my earlier meetings and before I joined Sparkpoint and looking at these type of programs was having discussions with higher ups and them just saying, you know, the importance of a financial capabilities service, the importance of financial coaching, the importance of basic needs support is irrefutable. Like, it is very important, but is it more important than admissions and records? Is it more important than academic counseling? Is it more important than the faculty? That's the response. And then typically the big hurdle to get to is, well, I wouldn't say it's more important, but it can definitely help those programs be more successful. And so that is a big shift in perspective, though, from someone in the academic, position in academia, where they're used to looking at these typical things that need to be funded. And then where does Sparkpoint fit in? Well, maybe it's fifth most important, but we only have money for 4 things, right? So, and kind of shifting the model of how you look at supporting the students from a holistic standpoint.
Okay.
To add on to that really quickly, it's demonstrating how financial literacy will assist a student to identify the skills and or resources so that they can persist and succeed in school, complete school, get that higher degree that leads towards a livable income. That's really the biggest, I wouldn't call it a challenge or a hurdle, but once we're able to identify how to do that, we're much more efficient at being able to demonstrate the value that it has at a community college.
Okay.
I just also wanted to add, a lot of times when we support the launch of the Sparkpoint Center at a community college, we have an institutional or a foundation partner that is helping us launch it. And one example, I know Malila's on the line, is the Stupsky Foundation that helped us launch our newest center, Sparkline, at Chabot College. And so we often partner with our corporate and foundation partners in order to bring the Sparkline model to community colleges.
Great. Okay.
Seems to me that, at least based on the experience I've heard from Chad and Adolfo, and then even thinking about what Gavilan College and San Francisco State are going through right now, that it's kind of an organic process for a lot of these campuses. I mean, there is funding available for student support and student needs and that sort of thing. And at some point, there's a recognition that either because the needs have grown or the college leadership recognizes that that there's a better way of providing those services and achieving better outcomes. And I'm just wondering, Anna, whether the toolkit that you're developing envisions sort of that, how to expedite that realization curve, if you will, so that campuses, the ones who are championing the student success at the campuses have more tools at their disposal to, even in the pre-planning phases, before you even get to the point where you say, oh, well, we want to start planning for a Sparkpoint Center. How do you help them with tools to get the leadership of the college on board?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. One of the really the beginning of the toolkit, we start with something called the institutional readiness assessment. And before we launch a Sparkline Center at a community college, we have a lot of conversations around, is there buy-in from leadership? Do you have funding? Have you done a needs assessment? Are students asking for this? Do faculty staff know about this? Is it written into a plan? And so we developed, in working with the Sparkpoint Centers, we developed an assessment that a college can take to see how ready they are. And not that if you you can have some elements of it and not others and still start planning, but the more you have of these readiness indicators, the more ready you are to start and launch the planning process so that it can be, so the process can be expedited. Because we know that if you have funding, if you have leadership buy-in, if you have space on campus, like all of those things will make it the planning process much smoother and will be faster.
And it sounds like we have time for maybe one more question if there are any other burning questions out there.
I don't have a question. I would like to just chime in. My name is Varun Gupta. I teach economics and accounting at a junior college just south of Houston, Texas, way down here in Sugar Land. Not sure how I found you all, probably from Eventbrite or something, but wow. I've experienced everything that you all have said on a piecemeal basis. And I was just absolutely just floored by, I think Chad had the slide on the cascading of events. And then I think Jess really brought that home because I see that my students are late to class and I'm like, why are you late to class? I had to work till midnight. And I've been focusing on the financial literacy piece because that's what I do, economics and accounting. That's what I understand. And I'm just, you don't know what you don't know because I've just got pages and pages and pages of notes here. In fact, Chad, if there's a way, or Shauna, we've communicated on email. If there's a way to get, I just love that one slide he had with the cascading events that if you're late to class, then your grades, I'd like to have that because I want to do something. I don't know what we'll be able to do down here. A lot of institutional resistance in my particular college, but there's got to be something we can do because I wrote down, help them now or support them forever. And Jess, if you don't mind, that's the story. That's what I got from your story, was that just giving you the tools that you need now is a smaller investment for the society than having to support or take care of you the rest of your life. And it's like just mind blown. And food, money, legal, education, safety nets, basic needs. So just thank you all for opening my eyes and helping me. If there's a way, Shauna, to get that specific slide, I don't need the whole thing. I'm happy to have the whole thing. But thank you all for letting me be part of this and letting me learn from y'all. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Varun, for sharing that. How cool that in this virtual learning world, we've got people from all over the country listening in and being inspired by United Way and Sparkpoint and our folks here on this call. Fabulous note to leave on, and I will connect you with Chad and make sure that you get that slide for your students. And thanks in advance for helping to spread the word about everything you've learned here today. So with that, I once again just want to thank everyone on this call, our speakers, our attendees. Really, really appreciate you all. Be sure to look out for that email from me tomorrow morning. And with that, I wish everyone a very good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Chana.